So I was actually really excited to see the new Beetlejuice movie. As a matter of fact, I actually recorded myself entering the theater.
Oh, yeah, here I come, baby.
But yeah, needless to say, I was kind of excited for this movie. But if you've seen my non-spoiler review, you know that while I did enjoy this movie for what it was, I had some qualms with it, particularly the script. But you know what? I'm going to get to those a little bit later because I want to start with what actually does work. Number one, by far and away, is the cast. The cast is easily the best part of the film. Every single person fully commits to the absurdity of this world, and their enthusiasm is really contagious. It really draws you into the story more than, honestly, more than it has any right to. The special effects are also very quirky, very campy, very Tim Burton, and the charm of them hasn't worn off despite all of these years. In fact, they're a little bit more polished now due to advancements in technology. Also, some really funny scenes incorporated throughout the film, some really good gags. There is an animated sequence. There is a flashback sequence that's kind of shot like an old-timey foreign film, which I think really works with this movie. And with the macabre nature of it. So all of that I really liked. Going into a little bit of the story, one of the standout storylines in my opinion was Astrid arc, which she's the character played by Jenna Ortega. I really thought that her relationship with her mother, her grief over her father's death, and her entanglement with this boy who turns out to be a ghost and who turns out to be a murder ghost and wants to steal her life in exchange for his, that was a very interesting storyline. And I think Arthur Conti, who plays Jeremy the Ghost Boy, he does a really good job. He's very charming, but there's also something so menacing about it, which I find odd how quickly they got rid of him in that storyline, because he was really only a villain for that particular subplot, not the main antagonist for the movie, which adds to the disjointedness and I think was a missed opportunity. But he was great, and so was Jenna Ortega. I really do think that it made sense for her character to be so against her mom's ghost work, especially because when her father died, that was the one ghost that she wasn't able to see. And when that is explained, their relationship and their dynamic really makes a whole lot of sense. And I think one of the aspects of this movie that really works and that I wish would have been the main focus of the entire film. Another standout, in my opinion, from this movie is Bob. There was so much marketing hype behind this character, and I was a little worried that it was going to be like a Jar Jar Binks situation, where it's a character that's like supposed to be, the big next big thing is actually ends up being kind of annoying. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought Bob was adorable with his little tiny face and dressing up like Beetlejuice as his bodyguard. And I was kind of actually a little bit sad that his character got his soul sucked because he was adorable. And I definitely love all the merch that has been coming out of Bob. But now I think we need to talk about what doesn't work in this movie, and that's largely the script. I find it a little baffling that it took 36 years to make a sequel to Beetlejuice, and this is the script they chose, where there are so many ideas that have potential, to be fair, but they're ultimately wasted, and several storylines, again, are very interesting, but they either aren't fully explored or some of them are just feel out of place with the main story, that it just kind of feels like they're padding the runtime a little bit. And I think that this has to do with part of it being that they inherited the script, and the script has gone through so many changes throughout the decades that, yeah, they kind of grabbed the best ideas and try to put them together, but they didn't quite, they didn't kill their darlings, which I think is something that could have potentially helped this movie. Like some interesting ideas that don't quite work are the characters of Willem Dafoe and Monica Bellucci. Willem Dafoe is this actor who is dead now, and he played a cop in a TV show, and now he's an undead detective. And Monica Bellucci is Beetlejuice's ex-wife. And like I mentioned, those are two very interesting ideas, but they don't really go anywhere in this movie. Monica Bellucci's character, for example, her entrance is kind of electrifying, and I was like, okay, she has to have a big role, some things happening. But essentially, after that really cool entrance, all she does is kind of wander around, select people's souls, and says, "Where's Beetlejuice?" And then when she does run into Beetlejuice, she gets quickly eaten by a sandworm. So there's no real payoff. There's no real danger. The stakes are really low, and I think that kind of hurt the movie. I do have to address what they did to my girl Lydia in this film. Like I mentioned in my other review, she's hosting this ghost reality TV show, which is kind of baffling given that she was so against the exploitation of the ghosts that were in her house when she was younger. And there was an opportunity to explore why she ended up there, why she sold out, and how she's become a lot more like Delia was in the original movie, but it never really goes anywhere. There is this one line where Delia asks Lydia, "Where did that little goth girl that used to torment me go?" And I thought that that was setting up a potential character arc for Lydia, kind of discovering, rediscovering herself. But that never really happened. Didn't go beyond that one line, which I found it a little bit frustrating. And yeah, overall, this film was just kind of non-committal to its best ideas. Um, and the ideas that it did commit to were kind of odd. Like Lydia's father, he kind of passes away, and he's the instigator for bringing them back to the hometown. Um, and I thought that the homage they paid to that character was, in a weird Tim Burton way, kind of honorable and respectful. And I just assumed that the actor Jeffrey Jones had passed away, and they were trying to honor that character. But a quick Google search kind of made me realize there is another reason why he's not in this movie. Not a very good reason. And it's just weird that they would honor his character so much in this movie and that he was such a big part of it. When his role could have been easily replaced with Astrid's father. And I feel like that would have tightened the script up a little bit. That would have made that emotional core of, you know, dealing with grief, but in a funny Tim Burton way, work a lot better than what they ended up doing. This film was also in desperate need of Gina Davis. I just saw her in Blink twice, and reminded I got reminded how amazing a talent she is, and I think that it was a missed opportunity not to bring her back, especially because in the original her character brought so much warmth to the cold gothic aesthetic, and without someone like her in this movie, it feels really distant and kind of emotionally flat. I also found it weird that instead of honoring her character and her husband's character, played by Alec Baldwin, their absence is like simply tossed away with one line that says, "Oh, they found a loophole and they were able to move on." And really, that just seems more like the writers kind of found a loophole to not include them in this story. Granted that they probably wouldn't have had time to do anything with those characters, but I feel like they deserve more of an homage than the dad does. But that's just my thoughts on that. I do really like Wednesday, the Netflix show, and I like what the writers have done with long form storytelling in their TV shows. And I think that that's an area where they can explore multiple arcs over several episodes. But in a 105-minute movie, it just doesn't quite work. There was definitely some lines that I think should have been cut, some storylines that should have been cut. But despite these issues, I don't think that the script will stop the film from being a huge success. Nowadays, nostalgia sells, and I think that this script is it's good enough to give people what they want. And I feel like that's what they were going for, just something that's good enough to build a cohesive-ish movie. And let's be honest, people are really coming back to see Michael Keaton return as Beetlejuice, see Winona Ryder return, and because Jenna Ortega is also bringing in new fans, which is really awesome. So while this film may not stand the test of time like the original Beetlejuice, it's going to make a whole ton of money, and I would not be surprised if there's a Beetlejuice 3, especially because it's like it would be a missed opportunity to not name it Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. But next time, let's hope they tighten up the script a little bit more and maybe not wait another 36 years, or maybe do.